Welcome back to the Division 2. In this video we are going to be taking a look at my DPS build because a lot of you have actually requested it, even though I've shown it before. I pretty much just run the same thing I have for a very long time. There's been a couple of minor changes and I don't actually plan on changing any of it anytime soon. I'm comfortable with where it's at. I mean, unless the devs decide to go and nerf stuff, then I'll have to take another look at it. But starting off, we have the Classic M1A. I was using the Baker's Dozen, but the Baker's Dozen, it has a talent on it called Perfect Lucky Shot. So every single time you miss a bullet when you're behind cover, it comes back to you. So even though you're going to be getting a lot of your rounds back, you're actually missing out on initial DPS. Like extra damage, you're going to miss out because those bullets that return to the mag don't actually do anything. Whereas the Classic M1A is not perfect. I've only got 9% crit damage on it, but I did re-roll the damage to targets out of cover. With the talent Boomerang, crits have a 50% chance to return the bullet to the mag. If a bullet is returned, the next shot has 40% increased damage. I have the max, like 60% critical hit chance, so crits do land fairly often, so that gives me a lot of extra damage. But then if you take a look at the secondary, I always run the Pestilence. I don't really use this, I just normally use the M1A. But it's got pretty high rolls, I can't be bothered to keep configuring it to try and max those out because chances are I'll run out of components before I actually increase those two stats. Then with the pistol, I just run the Mozambique Special. I love this pistol. I don't use it too often. Again though, it's just mainly focused on the M1A. I run Sharpshooter because if you quickly take a look at the specialization, we have 15% increased headshot damage with rifles and marksman rifles, so it just gives you that extra damage. And then obviously through these we've got rifle damage, marksman rifle, then we also have SMG, and you can just respec these whenever you want, so I can just change it depending on which weapon I'm using. But for Sharpshooter you would typically use a rifle or a marksman because of the extra headshot damage. So back into the build, we have the mask. It is Providence, one of 3 pieces on the build. And pretty much the entire build is spec'd into crit chance and crit damage. You can see we've got the max weapon damage and crit chance on this with 10.4 and 11.7% crit damage. Then we go over to the backpack, and I need to get this a little bit better. If I could switch out that weapon handling for crit chance, that would be better. But we've got maxed out weapon damage, weapon handling, crit damage twice, including the mod. Then I put Vigilance on there for an extra 25% weapon damage. Although when I do take damage, it disables that buff for 4 seconds. So I do kind of need to utilize cover still with this build. Then moving into the chest, it's another Providence. It's the Sacrifice of Perfect Glass Cannon. It's a risky piece to go with, but you do get amplified damage. So it does help out. Although you can take other things, use different pieces. There's a lot of different ways you can make the build. But for me personally, Perfect Glass Cannon's good. I've got used to using it. Sometimes I do still play stupid and go down because your damage, the damage you take, is amplified by 60%. So in some cases it's not going to be beneficial. But we've got a decent roll on it. I would have preferred to get higher weapon damage. But you can't really complain because it's a name drop. And sometimes you can spend hours and hours grinding for these. But 13.2% weapon damage. Maxed out headshot damage, maxed out crit damage through mod, which I was lucky to get, then 10.8% extra crit damage. Then moving into the gloves, we have Grupo Sombra for the crit damage from the brand set, with maxed weapon damage, max crit damage, and we have 7.8 headshot damage. Again, if I could get crit chance on those instead, then there are some things I could take off the build, and I could switch a couple of things around, but I'm pretty much not going to change this now. Then into the holster, we have a Seska holster for that 10% extra crit chance, 14.6 weapon damage, maxed out crit chance, which was recalibrated onto it, then 11.8 crit damage. Then into the knee pads, we have the one and only Fox's Prayers. They are Overlord, so you get 10% rifle damage from the brand set. Then you have a unique attribute on these, which is 8% damage to targets out of cover. That always comes max roll, it can't come any lower. Then we've luckily managed to find them with the maxed weapon damage, so I've recalibrated the crit chance onto them. So that's all of the pieces in the build. You're wanting to, like with a DPS build in general, you want to focus on crit chance and crit damage. Obviously you can put headshot damage in there, but I wouldn't say it's as beneficial because a crit is going to deal the critical damage. That extra damage you're getting is going to deal it no matter where you hit on the body. Whereas headshots are a lot harder to hit, especially on console. Might be a little bit more beneficial on PC. But I always run the Revive Hive, and I've got the Fixer Drone just to give myself that little bit of extra armor when I start taking hits. Although sometimes I do go down too fast and the drone's just not going to be able to do anything about it. Plus also when you're moving around, that drone doesn't do too well. We have a base of 486, 487 on the weapon damage for the M1A. It's 58% crit chance, not maxed out 60, but it's fairly close. So I do hit crits very often with 154.7 crit damage, 127.8 headshot damage, no armor damage or health damage or anything like that. Then you can see that all weapons damage bonus is 97.8, and then we have 39% on top of that for the rifle damage bonus. And then it's just about your armor and your health and everything down here, so none of that really matters too much. You can see my armor is 726, my health is 321.6. I do go down quite often and quite fast as well. So if we switch it up to named, and then if we just make sure that it's set to 5 meters, and then if I hit a crit, 3,568,000, and then the next shot is 2.1, but we need to wait for the bullet to come back. There we go, the bullet come back. So the next shot, 4,170,000, because we procced boomerang. We had that bullet come back to the mag, and we landed a crit headshot with it for a shitload of damage. 4.1 million in one shot is a lot of damage. So you just got to make sure that you're trying to proc boomerang. Like, the best advice I can give is to make sure you're accurate. Try and land your shots, because you don't have perfect lucky shot if you've replaced your Baker's dozen with the M1A. So you're not having them rounds come back to the mag when you are missing your shots. So what we're going to do, just to end the video off, is show you some actual like open world enemies. If we just take down this boss that always spawns south, back to the good old days. We used to do this a long time ago before I started showcasing missions all the time. Okay, so you'll see the enemies ahead of us. Always pop your Fixer Drone, just in case. You never know when you're going to get absolutely shit on. So there's I landed 3 shots out of the ones I fired. 3 shots to take down a purple on heroic. Sometimes it will take more. Sometimes you can 2-shot them. It depends if you're hitting headshots and if you're getting crits. And there's a few different factors. But you can see just how much health and armor damage I'm dealing. Even though there's no bonuses on the build for those specifically, you can just see how much it shreds them. Armor's gone in 2 shots on a purple when I'm not landing crits or anything. And that's the entire group of enemies dealt with. So, that's going to wrap it up for the video. That was my DPS build. Just, all you've got to do with this build, if you're running it exactly how I have it, is just utilize the cover. Because cover is so important due to the fact that you're running perfect glass cannon. The damage you take is amplified by 60%. So utilize cover, be smart, be patient, like don't try rushing around like a headless chicken like I do in a lot of the videos you see on the channel. But make sure you pop your Fixer Drone, keep your Revive Hive up when possible, and just land your shots. That's all you've really got to do. Boomerang is a very, very strong talent if you use it properly. Like, you know exactly, like if you pay attention to when the bullet does come back, and then you always make sure that the next shot you're trying to aim for the head. But on that note, we are going to leave the video there. If there's anything you need help with, let me know in the comments. I will be doing some other loot farms and stuff for different missions. Lincoln Memorial will be one of those. I'll teach you the spawn points and everything for that mission, because there are 4 bosses in the one mission. But that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.